Hi guys, today's video is going to be on the T110E5, the Tier 10 American heavy tank. This video was a request, but I was more than happy to oblige, as this is a tank that is a joy to use. The reasons for that are because it's the perfect all-rounder. The tank is decent mobility, it's got good armour, it's got a good gun. It doesn't really care what map comes up. This tank is equally at home playing on Prokhorovka as it is on Malinovka or Himmelsdorf or Ensk or El Haluf. It just doesn't really care. The reasons for that are because this tank can fulfill a hold down role. And side scrape, you do have to be careful with the angle, but the tracks are nice and fixed, so you can use them to absorb some shots. And it can also brawl. There isn't any role that this tank can't really fill. So with that in mind, I'd say it's a tank everyone should really try grinding for. The grind itself isn't unpleasant. I mean, you've got to go through things like the M3 lead, but once you get to tier 5, it's pretty smooth sailing. I'd say the M103 is kind of lackluster. I wasn't a huge fan of it. That's an all-rounder as well, but you've got some really good heavy tanks in tier 9, but it's definitely worth the grind to get this. As it's an all-rounder, you can play well in a medium tank role as well as a heavy tank role, so I've decided to come up here with the medium tanks instead of going to the brawling area with the heavies. However, the medium tanks tend to have to stay on the left hand side there. Because I've got more armour, I'm going to push forwards further here on the right, because I can expose more of my turret and things to get shots on those red tanks. I've noticed there's a tier 8 out in the open, so I'm going to put a shot into that. It's bottom tier tank, but the sooner we can get it out of the game, the better, because the less guns red tanks have, it gives us an advantage. However, a medium tank goes for me. I try tracking him there. I rotate the hull as well as the turret, but he ends up getting destroyed. A snapshot into the tier 8, this thing's got decent, so it wasn't difficult to go through the armour. Looking at about 258 on the standard, I believe, and about 340 on the premium. There was no tanks that you're going to come up against that this thing won't pen one way or the other. Here I'm going after the IS-7. I've driving up to the rock here because there's a chieftain on the other side. I've got tanks behind me, so the chieftain would have to overextend to shoot me. So here I can safely put shots into the back of that IS-7 without having to worry about the chieftain around the corner and DPM him. The rate of fire in the tank, as you can see, it's not so bad. It's not as good as the British heavy tanks, but it's still fairly decent. Talking of British heavy tanks, there's a chieftain, which can be a problem because, like I said, it does have better DPM. It puts the first shot into my lower plate. That's the weak spot on this tank frontally. I was a bit unsure what to do. I was contemplating just hiding behind the destroyed tank, but one of our mediums pushes up. I put a shot into the chieftain's hatch there, but because the medium's pushed up, I'm going to engage. I want to get up close and face hug him at this point. The reason for that is because it makes it so he or she can't shoot my lower plate. The only target they can hope to aim at now, really, once I'm nice and close, is the cupola. However, the cupola on this tank's really quite strong. Now, it looks like the TD was trying to get in front of me there so he could get the kill. That didn't work out for me and ended up going back to the garage. Bit of a daft move. I was hoping to get a shot on the E4 here. If I was in a British heavy tank, I might have done it. But if I was in a British heavy tank, I wouldn't quite have the mobility this tank does. E5 has been in the game for a long time. It used to be a decent all-rounder, but the hatch was soft, so you had to bear that in mind, wiggle a lot. It was tricky to use, well, in certain situations. Then Wargaming buffed it a lot and made it completely overpowered. Then they nerfed it a little bit, so right now it's not as powerful as it was after when it got the buff, but it's not. It wasn't bad. It's better than it was when it first came in the game, so it's in the middle ground between the previous two iterations. It's in a bit of a sweet spot, I think. You don't feel completely dirty playing it, but it's still a very, very strong tank that rewards aggressive play a lot of the time. also got 400 meter view range, so you can equip it with optics, you can get the vision crew skills, and this thing can drive up to the front line, light up its own targets and start putting shots on them. I've gone for rammer, vertical stabilizer and vents to maximise the DPM and things like that. But I might go for the third mark of excellence on this, and if I do, I'll be switching out the vents for the optics, because assisted damage counts really well towards farming MOE. I couldn't get a shot on that one unfortunately, but I'm going to try going after this TD. TD player killed themselves, but this is still useful because it shows how the tank keeps up with the mediums. These are 2 tier 10 medium tanks, but whilst they are pulling away, they're not completely leaving the E5 behind. The reason I'd say that's relevant is because this is a tank that if you like playing in a platoon, it pairs up really well with absolutely anything. Even fast tanks like the mediums, because here they've pulled away quite a bit. But what it means when you're platooning with mediums, for instance, is that they'll get to their locations, they'll spot some tanks, and sometimes what happens is when the mediums get spotted, you'll get a few red tanks that'll kind of YOLO at them, you know, just charge over ridges to go after them. The E5 will arrive just as that happens and can then bring some armour and firepower into play. It's an amazing all-rounder. Really good to play. It doesn't have many downsides. If you over angle when you're side scraping, people can shoot through the front wheel into the side of your hull and damage your ammo. That's probably the main downside, I'd say, to be honest. It doesn't have quite as much gun depression as the British tank. I'll check exactly what it is in the garage in a minute. I'll just bring up the normal stats first. There we can see decent enough engine. Rate of fire is okay. Decent pen, decent damage, decent aiming time and accuracy, 400 meter view range. Decent stats across the board basically. I'll have a quick check of that gun. I think it's 8 degrees of gun depression. It's not quite 10, but it's still more than enough. Yeah, 8 degrees. And here's the armor layout. As you can see, frontally very strong. The lower plate is weaker and isn't as curved as the upper plate, so you do have to be careful with it. That's where people can pen you. Tier 8s are going to struggle to pen it in general, to be honest, frontally at least. If you're engaging this tank side on, the side of the hull is easy enough to pen. Be wary of the tracks, but if you're going to shoot the turret side on, shoot the back half of the turret, because the front half is stronger. It's got better armor in the front half of the turret, even side on, so always bear that in mind. Aim for the rear half of the turret when you're shooting it side on. Oops, didn't mean to do that. So that's the E5, yeah. I'd say it's the perfect all-rounder. In my opinion, one of the best tier 10 heavy tanks in the game, and it's a tank I think everybody should have. The grind isn't hard, and this tank is amazing basically. Thanks for watching guys, I'll do another video soon. Cheers.